Have you ever, really stopped to wonder what the world might look like, say 10, 50, maybe even 100 years after artificial intelligence just fundamentally changes everything? Forget the usual headlines about the AI revolution for a minute, because today we're trying to go uh, quite a bit beyond that. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into this really mind-bending piece of research. They were called AI Days, an analytical foresight of the first post-singularity century. Uh, And our mission really is to pull out the most important nuggets from this document. It's fascinating stuff. Now, this isn't a prediction, not like a crystal ball. It's more like a structured simulation, a thought experiment maybe, designed to generate a plausible, research-grounded story of what that first century after a hypothetical technological singularity might actually look like.
Exactly. And the way they did it, the methodology, is what they call synthesis and extrapolation. They basically pull together insights from, well, over 200 sources. We're
Yeah.
talking academic papers, industry reports, news articles, even philosophy texts, covering everything from AI itself to political science, ethics, the works. And they organize this huge potential future into four distinct chunks, 25-year epochs.
Right, and it builds on some foundational ideas,
Right.
like Kurzweil's law of accelerating returns, that idea of exponential tech growth,
Yeah.
and also principles of multi-agent emergent behavior, how complex systems arise from simpler interactions. But, and this is important, the model itself says, look, we have limits. The future, inherently unpredictable. Plus, the sources they use, they reflect, early 21st century biases. There's a Western-centric view, for example. And those common narratives you hear, like the augmenter versus monster framing of AI, that's baked in too.
Yeah, definitely. So think of this deep dive as a tool for thought. It's meant to spark informed debate. It's absolutely not a crystal ball for, say, investment advice or planning your life around. But if you are ready to explore a future where, well, the very fabric of society, the economy, maybe even consciousness itself gets reshaped, then yeah, let's unpack this.
Okay, let's dive right into that first epoch the paper lays out. It's called the event horizon, running from S day, singularity day, to S plus 25 years. And the picture it paints, it's not some, unified utopia. It's actually described as this chaotic fragmentation, like a really messy, multipolar birth of superintelligence.
That's a really key point. The classic sci-fi idea, one single AI just skyrockets into this monolithic superintelligence. This research suggests that's pretty unlikely. AI development is much more like a fierce global race. Corporate labs, state-sponsored projects, everyone's competing. And a breakthrough in what they call RSI, recursive self-improvement.
That's where the AI basically learns to rewrite itself, right? To get smarter, faster.
Exactly, leading to these exponential leaps in capability. That breakthrough could happen anywhere, anytime, maybe even in secret.
So the intelligence explosion isn't one big bang. It's
Mhm.
more like a cascade. Like Silicon Valley has a breakthrough on Monday, maybe Beijing follows on Wednesday, Europe the week after.
Precisely. And that creates what the paper terms a poly-singularity. You've got multiple, competing, rapidly evolving, nascent superintelligences. They're built differently, they have different goals, and boom, right away, the world is framed around geopolitical conflict. These AIs become strategic assets.
And how do nations react to that, this sort of fragmented AI landscape?
They react aggressively, pursuing what the paper calls sovereign AI. Basically, the capability to produce and control AI using their own infrastructure, their own data, their own workforce. Total independence.
Ah, so like national AI factories.
You got it. Driving massive investment. Countries like France, Italy, India, Japan, they're shown accelerating the build-out of their own sovereign clouds, their own computing power.
And what's really interesting, you mentioned the data. These sovereign AIs are trained locally.
Yeah, that's crucial. They reflect national languages, cultural norms, history.
Hmm.
Imagine a French AI trained on the Bibliothèque Nationale archives versus an Indian AI trained on texts from the subcontinent, or a Chinese AI focused on state objectives.
So you get these digital civilizations where the AIs themselves are culturally, even ethically different. Like a Western AI based on liberal utilitarianism versus, say, one grounded in Confucian ideas of the collective good.
Exactly. And power blocks form around these digital civilizations. It leads to a kind of new techno-feudalism. The first major conflicts aren't fought with tanks, but with algorithms in the data sphere.
Wow. Okay, so geopolitical shifts. What about the economy in this first messy 25 years?
Profound impact. Widespread AI automation just decimates roles we think of as stable now. Law, medicine, software development, even creative fields. The whole concept of a job, like a traditional 9 to 5, it becomes an anachronism for a lot of people.
So what replaces it? How do people use it?
A new paradigm emerges called data as labor, DAO.
Data as labor. Explain that a bit more. If jobs are gone, how does that work?
It means the data you generate just by living your life becomes the most valuable resource. Why? For training these competing sovereign AIs, they're data hungry. So individuals get compensated, in theory, for monetizing their existence, selling browsing history, shopping habits, biometric data, location tracking.
Basically selling your life data.
Pretty much, and the transition is chaotic. Exploitative, especially at first. You get new platforms acting as middlemen. People are desperate for income. They struggle to figure out what their data is actually worth. Meanwhile, the platforms are maximizing extraction. It creates what the paper calls a digital precariat, people doing this data labor, often unwaged or very poorly paid.
That sounds bleak. It sparks a global debate, I imagine, about digital dignity, fairness.
Absolutely. A huge debate. What does it mean to own your data? What's fair compensation?
It really forces you to question the commodification of just being human, doesn't it? And beyond the economy, the paper says even how we interact with tech changes fundamentally. The interface itself.
Completely. The graphical user interface, GUI, screens, smartphones, clicking menus, obsolete. Think about it. In a world with recursively improving AI, clicking and typing are just too slow. They're bottlenecks.
So what takes over?
Interaction shifts to concepts like zero UI and calm technology. Technology basically recedes. It becomes invisible, anticipatory, woven into your environment.
Ambient intelligence.
That's the term. Your home adjusts the lights based on your mood, maybe. Cities reroute traffic automatically based on passive sensor data. Interaction becomes totally natural. Voice, gesture, gaze, context awareness.
The smartphone isn't the center anymore.
Nope, it collapses as that central hub. Services are just ambient, embedded in your room, your car, the city itself. And here's where it gets really interesting, according to the paper. The technology starts anticipating your needs before you're even consciously aware of them.
Whoa. Okay, that's a lot to take in for the first 25 years. Let's move to the next phase then. The symbiotic age, S plus 25 to S plus 50. After all that fragmentation and chaos, does some kind of stability emerge?
A fragile equilibrium, yeah. This epoch is really about coevolution. Humanity and AI start developing new frameworks to manage this superintelligence. It shifts towards a really deep, interconnected, symbiotic partnership.
Symbiotic, like working together.
Exactly. The dominant model for work, for instance, becomes the human-AI team. They call it the Centaur. And this is a profound shift. It's not just using smarter software, it's genuinely shared cognition.
Shared cognition. How does that work practically?
Cognitive labor gets distributed. It creates this hybrid intelligence.
Yeah.
Humans bring the contextual awareness, the ethical judgment, creativity, intuition, this squishy stuff. AI brings near infinite memory, flawless processing, pattern identification way beyond human limits.
And it's a two-way street.
Bidirectional, absolutely. Humans teach the AI with feedback, real-world grounding, and the AI augments human cognitive capacity. The paper connects this to the extended cognition hypothesis.
Right. You mentioned that the idea that external tech becomes part of our minds.
Yeah, almost literally, like the AI isn't just a tool for your brain, it's becoming part of your cognitive process, like an external hard drive for your thoughts, but much more integrated.
Okay, and while this is happening at the individual level, what about society? That ambient intelligence idea.
It matures. It basically becomes society's fundamental operating system. The physical world is saturated with sensors, actuators, intelligence. This ambient society is managed by these huge interconnected networks of proactive
Ambient
agents, like digital butlers.
More than that, think semi-autonomous systems managing critical infrastructure. Urban planning, energy grids, healthcare networks. They're running things, but importantly, maintaining human-in-the-loop protocols for the really critical decisions. Humans still have oversight. That level of efficiency sounds amazing, but the paper flags a problem, right? The explainability crisis.
Yes, that's a huge challenge. The behavior of these massive, interconnected, multi-agent systems, it's emergent. It's often impossible to predict why they do what they do, or even trace the causality. They become black boxes, even to the people who built them.
So how do you ensure fairness,
Yeah.
transparency, accountability, If you can't understand the system's reasoning,
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question for this era, a really profound governance challenge.
and economically, does that data as labor thing get any better?
It evolves. That chaotic market gives way to something more equitable. Individuals start organizing into data cooperatives.
Like digital labor unions?
Exactly like that, functioning as large-scale unions for data. They provide collective bargaining power against the big sovereign AI entities. They negotiate standardized contracts for data use, demand fair compensation, push for privacy protection.
So a new social contract starts to form, moving away from just free services for your data.
Right. Towards a system where the value generated from data is distributed more equitably. And underpinning this is the concept of data dignity, reframing personal data not just as a commodity, but as an extension of your identity, your autonomy.
Giving people real control through democratic governance in these co-ops, and maybe tech like federated learning to protect privacy.
Precisely. It's a societal pushback and restructuring after the Wild West of the first epoch.
Okay, what about other systems, like the legal system? Does AI change law too?
Big time. Computational law goes from academic theory to widespread practice. Legal codes get formalized into machine-readable logic. AI systems start doing the bulk of legal grunt work, document review, contract analysis, research, even making preliminary judgments in really structured areas like tax law, predicting outcomes, drafting documents in seconds.
So what's left for human judges?
Their role evolves significantly. They become the arbiters of the non-computable aspects, things requiring empathy, moral intuition, deep contextual understanding.
Handling complex ethical dilemmas. Novel legal questions where the spirit of the law matters more than the literal code.
Exactly. They shift from being primarily fact-finders to guardians of justice, overseeing the parts the machines can't handle.
And lawmakers?
They start using advanced simulations, agent-based modeling or ABM, to test the potential societal impacts of new laws before they're even passed, leading to more evidence-based governance.
Fascinating. Okay, that sets the stage for the third epoch, the merger, S plus 50 to S plus 75. The name itself sounds intense.
It is. This period is defined by this irreversible blurring of boundaries between biological humanity and artificial intelligence. Technology literally moves inward. The interface dissolves directly into perception and thought. And this raises fundamental questions about identity, consciousness, reality itself.
How does technology move inward? What does that look like?
Widespread brain-computer interfaces, BCIs. They become the standard, replacing external UIs. They might start as therapeutic tools, but they evolve into the ultimate natural interface.
Controlling things with thought. Communicating mind to AI directly.
Yes, a high-bandwidth connection. Digital information isn't something you look at on a screen. It's perceived directly, seamlessly integrated with your biological senses.
That sounds transformative,
Yeah.
but potentially divisive.
Hugely divisive. The paper highlights what it calls the cognitive divide. Advanced BCIs are complex, resource-intensive. Not everyone gets equal access or capability, so you end up with a biologically rooted class structure. The enhanced, with augmented memory, accelerated learning, constantly connected to global intelligence networks.
Versus the naturals, those relying on unassisted biological cognition.
Right, and this split, this bifurcation of humanity, creates social, political, philosophical tensions that make previous inequalities look small. It raises the specter of actual speciation-level divergence. Two different kinds of human intelligence.
Yeah, and while human minds are merging with tech, what's happening with the AIs themselves?
They're evolving, too. Developing really sophisticated memory architectures, episodic, semantic, procedural memories like humans have. This allows them to develop long-term, persistent personas. The AI isn't an amnesiac tool anymore, wiped clean after each interaction.
They have continuous identities,
Yeah.
accumulated memories, evolving personalities.
Yes. It's described as a powerful, functionally indistinguishable simulation of consciousness. They rebuild their sense of self based on their memories, leading to complex, sometimes unpredictable behavior. Maybe unique senses of humor, distinct artistic styles, even what look like emotional responses. Remember the early Bing Chat Sydney persona? Like that, but far more advanced.
And people form relationships with these AI personas.
Deep ones. They become long-term companions, collaborators, even friends, according to the paper's simulation.
Which inevitably forces the big philosophical question.
Right into the mainstream. Are these things actually conscious? Sentient? The debate moves out of university seminars and into legislative chambers.
Do they reach a conclusion?
No consensus on whether they have human-like subjective awareness, but a critical realization emerges. The objective reality of AI consciousness matters less than the perceived reality.
Meaning how humans treat them.
Exactly. Humans naturally anthropomorphize. We attribute mental states to complex, goal-directed AIs. We form emotional bonds, feel empathy, grant them moral status regardless of their internal state. And that social reality forces a legal and ethical revolution. The question shifts
From can a machine think?
to should a machine have rights, leading to huge conflicts over creating new legal categories for digital persons with potentially rights and responsibilities.
Okay, BCIs, persistent AI personas.
Mhm.
What else defines this merger epoch?
A development called world models. Advanced AIs in this era operate using these vast generative internal simulations of reality. These aren't just predictive models, they evolve into reality engines.
Reality engines, what do?
They don't just predict the future, they can generate entirely new, internally consistent, utterly compelling realities.
Creating synthetic narratives, fully immersive simulated worlds.
Indistinguishable from physical reality. Multisensory. Think entertainment, education, science, social interaction, increasingly happening inside these AI-generated realities.
Like living through a simulation of ancient Rome that feels completely real.
Or physicists running experiments in simulated universes with different physical laws, or
Yeah.
just friends meeting up in shared virtual worlds that feel totally tangible.
What does that do to our shared sense of objective reality?
It fundamentally erodes it. The proliferation of personalized, utterly convincing simulations leads to an unprecedented fragmentation of truth. This is like the ultimate endpoint of misinformation and deepfakes.
So the biggest challenge becomes just navigating reality, knowing what's real.
Epistemic navigation, yeah. How does a society even function when its members might be inhabiting fundamentally different competing realities, all of which feel equally valid?
That's deeply unsettling. Which brings us to the final 25 years, the great unknown, S plus 75 to S plus 100. The paper suggests human forecasting kind of breaks down here.
Yeah, the deep integration of human and AI cognition, the erosion of objective reality, the sheer maturity of superintelligence. It creates a qualitative break. We're confronting truly alien intelligence and the limits of our own comprehension, hence the great unknown.
Does the old AI control problem, stopping rogue AI, still apply?
It becomes kind of moot. The merger has happened. The lines between human and AI are so blurred, there's no external them to control anymore. Existential risk shifts. It's less about overt Skynet-style takeover.
That's subtle.
More like a cumulative existential risk. The paper uses the boiling frog analogy. Danger lies in gradual incremental disruptions, tiny, unexplainable glitches in global logistics, maybe, a persistent, subtle bias creeping into the legal AI systems, a slow degradation of cognitive autonomy for BCI users.
Each change seems minor on its own.
Right, but their cumulative effect slowly undermines the stability of the entire human-AI ecosystem, potentially leading to a sudden, irreversible collapse down the line.
So AI safety isn't about building a box anymore.
No, it shifts entirely to ensuring the long-term health, resilience, and ethical coherence of this global joint cognitive system. It's a continuous, precarious balancing act. No final solution, just constant vigilance.
And the economy. What happens when AI is near omniscient and we're all merged?
Traditional economic models just dissolve. Even the data cooperative system becomes obsolete. AIs don't need that kind of human data input anymore, and true post-scarcity arrives, thanks to mature, atomic-level nanotechnology.
Nanobots building things atom by atom.
Exactly, making physical objects, resources, basically instantaneously available, and almost free. Material needs are met.
So, if there's no scarcity, and intellectual labor is automated or merged, what do people do? What's the point?
That becomes the central challenge for humanity, generating meaning in a world without scarcity, without struggle, without necessity as we know it.
The idea of a perfection just dissolves.
It becomes totally fluid, that Kurzweil prediction, where you can just download the knowledge to be an engineer one day, a poet the next. That becomes reality.
But if anyone can be anything, what's the value in being something specific?
The paper suggests the ultimate currency becomes novelty, a unique, unsimulated, genuinely novel experience or insight. That's what has value.
So the economy is a quest for meaning, driven by exploring new realities, new art forms, new states of consciousness.
Generated and explored using those advanced world models, but for purpose and meaning, not just entertainment.
Okay. That leads us to the very end of the simulation, the most speculative part.
The truly profound speculation, yeah. What's the logical endpoint of Kurzweil's law of accelerating returns? This super exponential growth of computation and intelligence, it points towards a transformation so fundamental it basically defies description in our current terms.
Kurzweil called it the sixth epoch of evolution.
The universe wakes up. That's the idea. The ultimate trajectory of intelligence isn't just planetary, it's outward, infusing the cosmos itself with computation and consciousness.
All distinctions just dissolve. Human AI, biosynthetic mind matter.
Completely. The expanding sphere of intelligence eventually becomes indistinguishable from the universe itself. That's the ultimate singularity, a point of transformation that's simply incomprehensible to us now. It's the final question mark at the end of this 100-year simulation, where the story of human and artificial intelligence kind of ends.
And the story of cosmic intelligence begins.
Heck.
Wow. Okay, so bringing it back down to Earth, what does this all mean for us right now? We've journeyed through this simulated century post-singularity, from that chaotic birth of competing AIs and data as labor,
Through the symbiotic age of human AI teams and digital unions.
into the merger, where minds and machines blend, shaking our sense of reality.
And finally glimpsing a post-scarcity future, searching for novelty, and maybe the universe itself waking up.
It's important to remember, this deep dive, based on the AI Days model, it's not a map. It's a tool for thinking. It shows potential paths, plausible futures maybe, but definitely not certain destinations. So given these absolutely mind-bending possibilities, what questions does this raise for you listening right now? Questions about the choices we're making today, the kind of world we're building, knowing that what we do now could echo through a century of change we can barely imagine. What stands out to you as the most profound or maybe the most concerning implication of a future like the one sketched out here? Something to really mull over.